Some of you might recognize Leon from other SwineWeb videos, so I'm here with Leon Sheets, another Iowa pork producer and farmer here at the Iowa Pork Congress. Leon, what are your thoughts this year for the Pork Congress?
I just got on the trade show this morning, Rachel, so I haven't got a full impression. Is that it looks like a fair number of people, but Wednesday morning is the big day that we see an awful lot of folks. Later tomorrow afternoon will be a telltale sign is that what the crowd is, but there's conversations going on and exhibitors have somebody in their booth talking with them, asking questions, either acquaintances, and that's the thing to have, is to generate conversation and discussion amongst it. So you've got people out looking, which is a good sign in the industry that they're wanting to learn and get better, and that's the reason that the industry pulls everybody together to have a day to do that meeting and greeting and sharing and exchanging.
So you are a very intelligent man, and you've been here for many.
Easy. I have been here for many years. Let's not get reckless with the truth here, dear.
What is your history in the pork industry?
I started like a lot of them. Is that the family had swine on the farm. Of course, everybody had mama had the chickens you helped her take care of, and we had dairy cows.
Yeah.
And granddad had purebred Poland Chinas, and dad had pigs. And as we grew up, I moved away from home, going to do something different, and I started back before I finished college working on a farm, taking care of swine, and then I moved in the industry, working for a genetic company in sales and production, and then I took over a larger sow farm, and I bought the sow farm, and that's quite a few years ago, and we've just been expanding somewhere up around. I had a 1,200 sow when we decided the facility needed a little more remodeling. I'm not as young as I used to be, that I went to more of raising pigs for somebody else and take care of pigs, and that's how I kind of finish out my year. It's kind of that your future planning on how your transition planning is. I'm doing somebody else is owning the pigs right now, that if something happens, I can ease on out for the family pressure a little bit. So along the way, I got involved in pork activities, and I really had a liking and enjoyed doing it, getting out and promoting the product and telling our story about pigs. And so that's kind of where I'm at, the opportunity to get out and meet and greet people and know a lot of folks. That's been a benefit in there, and apparently I'm told that I know a lot of people, and I spend a lot of time talking. I don't know where that came from in there, but
I don't know either. But
I don't know either.
You're so friendly to have around and run into each other here at these shows.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So you've been in the swine industry for a handful of years.
I started on my own in 1980.
And what are some of the biggest changes you've seen?
Oh, wow.
I mean, we've had a lot, but
we've kind of probably changed our housing. We moved from more outside to inside. We've had a change of sizes, that instead of a lot of what you would call smaller producers, the ones that are still in, for the most part, are a little on the larger side. There's been kind of a definition between either you're a commercial producer with a larger number, or you're more geared to what you would call the show pig entity, which has got a value that some folks move up to the larger areas. So we've kind of had that little distinction. We've seen advent of technology as everything changes. We look to make things easier, simpler, to be able to do a better job, and it's part of it keeping up that everybody's got an iPhone, got availability to Google. It's all hooked up to the computer, that you can run your barn, you can run your dryer, is livestock in the tractor. We've got the GPS, but all the planters have, I got to have my iPad in the tractor to run the planter. The sprayer's got to have the iPad to hook back, and you're sitting there plumping back, and the information technology and exchanges. So there's a plethora of things that, Rachel, that's happened in the industry that I suspect will keep on going. I wonder where it's going to stop. I kidded this morning, I stopped at one booth. They've got a hologram. He doesn't have to travel around his display. It's all right there on a display. I can see everything he has and talk about in dimensions. It used to be I needed to walk around and kick on, sit on the seat of it and kick on the tires to make it go. But there's folks coming up with just ideas all over the place.
So what would you tell farmers that are kind of new to the egg industry or new to going out on their own with your years of experience? So what are some of the tried and true How did you push through? You've seen a
You
lot.
know, I'm not certain is that when you talk about new farmers, it appears those that are getting into our profession is that they grew up in a family with farmers and agriculture. It's not like
Agreed.
you come out of high school or college and says, I want to be a farmer, and you run right out. You have done some background, you've been working with and for or in a family, so you're pretty familiar with the lifestyle that you're getting into. And there's maybe a little bit of the basics that you learn along the way, that it's some of the simple basics. You can have all the technology, but one of the hardest things I find when I'm working with people in the barn, and with my 1200 South farm, I had a staff and you're training people. There's just things that I know and look for that it's hard to teach. It's just, I'm looking at something, but by instinct and natural, repetition of being 45 years in the business, you just feel some things when you're in a barn. You just feel it's not right. Is that you've got to look at certain things. You evaluate it. It's not right or wrong. Is that something's wrong? Is that, well, how do you make the adjustment? Well, in the summertime, you make the settings here. It's 30 below out. You don't use the same settings. You have to change them because you allow for the cold air and the moisture and humidity coming back in. Those things are hard to teach, and as if you can write an SOP, and I'm not one to sit down and write a lot of stuff, but people do try to write an SOP in a book. I think dumb SOBs write an SOP, but it's hard to sit back and understand it because everything changes based on the day of what's going on. I've seen an SOP where you're removing the nutrient from the barn. It says the curtain should be at 30% open. It's 20 degrees out that day with the wind blowing. You are not opening the curtain on 40-pound pigs down to 30%. It just doesn't work. It's just little things and common sense walk back in. So it's an acquired thing that you get with experience. You can't come out and, I don't think you can, or I had to go the slow way, learn everything in a matter of time. It's just being exposed, experience. The old guy said, you got to make some mistakes to learn it. I think that's a little bit, that's my take, Rachel. How do you see it? If you was coming back out, what do you think would be important?
Don't be afraid to say something. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid, if you're confused, to ask the questions to get clarification.
Isn't it terrible when the interviewee turns into the interviewer for a moment? But it is good to hear the sense of what you think is important versus what I think is important a little bit. But also working with your staff, you've got to ask them, is that I can't teach you everybody the same way that I learned myself.
Right.
My kids came in the barn, they understood some things. When I was doing supply shopping, I had my daughter with me. I went to reach for a new syringe. She reached for another one. And I said, now we get these. Dad, Linda and I need a smaller handle for our hands in the barn. The reality struck back in is that I just buy for me. What about the other people? And people learn different. Is that there's some people you think you got to yell at them when they're upset. It doesn't do any good. Is that how do you back up? And you've got to understand who you're working with and how to approach to get the message across if they're willing to learn.
Yeah, I farm with my brother, and it's so funny. Like, we joke how polar opposites we are from each other. He's the black and white spreadsheet person. I'm the colorful, creative. And yeah, we both absorb information. He loves reading PDFs. They make my head spin. I absorb information differently than he does. And so you're exactly right. Talking through or figuring out how other people work and what works for their
And you need that is if everybody's on the same way in a situation, it doesn't work. You need those opposites attract, is that so you're not missing anything. If you're both buried back here in the PDFs, there's a whole other issue you're going on. You're bringing some things back in here. If he's willing to learn to see something outside of the box versus it's here in black and white, but to get that stuff in the PDF, somebody has got to walk around with the clipboard, write numbers down or information to record it. And I've got some things we record, it gets logged here. Just knowledge and experience, and it gets logged up. And how does that get translated out at a proper time, in a proper form, with the proper people to get the proper job done.
And with common sense.
And now that
In
works
your
into being part of the human scenario, and that's why some managers fail or don't fail, is that it's a people issue for the most time. Pigs give me the fewest problems. It's dealing with the people back in there, is that you have that challenge yourself, that some days they get it and some days they don't, and some days they replicate it. Is, I guess, welcome to living in the real world.
One last question, Leon. To get more people in the pork industry involved in the pork industry, what would you say to everyone out there, whether they're working for a hog building business, a hog equipment business, to being a pork producer?
You find your love is that you really kind of want to be in this with anything. You really kind of want to be involved or do it. And swine gives us an opportunity in the pig industry, is by the different gamuts. If you want to stay, you're strong in the science, you want to be nutrition, research, you can do that. If you like visiting with people and being in sales, if you want to be in construction and build, if you like being in the barn and working with the pigs every day, we've got an opportunity. We need support people, we need veterinarians. If the scientific is one, that I certainly want you to train in the large animal, the food animal practice, to come back out and help me when we have an instance. The desire to come back in, there's an opportunity if you just want to be involved, if you want to be an owner of one of those. The swine industry has an awful lot. Come on in and meet the people and give it a try. And it's one of those, ease into it. If you don't like it, you can ease back out, or perhaps we can get you into part of the industry where you're most comfortable and you can excel. And we've had people in there that, well, I took it because I needed a job, and all of a sudden they got in there. I love it.
Right.
And they stay with it back in there. So,
how can people get a hold of you? How can they find you on social media?
on social media, you just under Leon Sheets. I write my handles, the Pig Farmer, and just make it on one of those scenarios to come back in. Is that, Rachel, you keep doing what you're doing. I don't know how much more they want to hear from me after chatting with you, but we do love to talk, and we do love to get out and promote being a pig farmer. And when we kick it over into, after we process it, it becomes pork. Let's sit back down and we can have a conversation about pork products and nutrition and eating healthy right, and getting our consumers comfortable with eating our products, and we stay in business a whole lot longer.
That's right. Well, thank
you, Rachel.
Thank you, Leon, and thank you for all your videos.